And we're back talking all things PlayStation State of Play right here on IGN Summer of Gaming. Thank you so much for joining us. Earlier today, we asked our audience which games they were most excited to see and laid out some predictions of our own about which titles we would see today. Let's take a look at how we all did. This is the Called It Recap sponsored by Metro by T-Mobile. Play more than before on the go with unlimited 5G, switch to Metro and save. Just $40, period. So we did pretty well, I've gotta say. Yeah, our audience did as well, but you know, overall I'm pretty happy with our predictions.
I mean, I screamed about Resident Evil 4 and it showed up, so I don't really even know what else to say. That's amazing. I'm not even taking credit for that. I'm just happy.
No, is that a lesson you want to pass on to our listeners, that they need to just scream outside for the game they want?
I mean, that could have been like, maybe that was my one wish for my whole life, and I used it there. And you know what? I don't have any regrets about that. Money would have been good, but I'll take that.
Max, how are you feeling about predictions-wise from pre-show? Obviously, Avatar.
Good. I mean, Avatar didn't show up, but it's okay. I'm used to waiting for Avatar. We got to look at Stray, which is, I was really hoping to see more of, and at the same time, I also don't want to see more of it because I want to play it.
Yeah.
It's one of those ones where I kind of was just like,
we got a release date too.
We did. Yeah, we'll talk about
July.
Yeah, July 19th, I believe, and we'll talk.
So
about
one of your cat wishes came through.
Yeah, I really just want more cat games, apparently. Yeah.
Jada, you of course, you were pretty much on the money.
Yeah, Final Fantasy 16 and Street Fighter 6. I got like I wanted to cry, but my makeup would have run, and I didn't have enough time to fix it, so I held it in. And I'm just so excited to play both of these games when they start to release.
If you got two wishes, then I can still use my other one for money, and you'll all get a little bit.
Well, of course, the one that our audience most hoped to see at the show was Horizon Call of the Mountain, and we got a pretty lengthy showcase of it. This is, a first-party PSVR 2 title. It's coming from Firesprite Games, one of the PlayStation's most recent acquisitions, as well as Guerrilla themselves. They're working kind of collaborations. We saw, a couple minutes of gameplay at this point. It's first person. We saw a bit of climbing, some, the things you would expect to do in Horizon, but in first person climbing. I think for me, the biggest surprise though was the dinosaur robot combat. I know people don't love dinosaur robot, but robot combat.
Right.
I was not expecting that.
Like, I specifically did not call that. I called the exact opposite. This clearly has much more action-oriented combat than I was expecting, which leads me to believe that it is a, sizable chunk of a game. I'm wondering if this is going to be sort of on the same scale as, I don't know, like a older campaign game you'd see where, 6 to 8 hour long. I mean, maybe that's overpromising, but like on the bright side, they already built this world. Like they've got a couple of these, environments under their belt, and I guess kind of redoing the scale and putting VR in there, it's a pretty cool way to go about it. But yeah, the combat looks kind of awesome. It looks like a very different experience from what we're used to. It's got, obviously some kind of motion gimmickry to it, but like that's not a bad thing necessarily. And I noticed there was kind of a lot of that sort of slowdown, which I think will be pretty cool because, obviously like the conventional Horizon games, they push back pretty hard. They'll beat the crap out of you. But like in this case, I think making it, a little more cinematic, a little more stylized, giving you kind of a second to pop off an arrow and, shoot one of those guys in the head.
Yeah, and Horizon's always given you that ability. There's always like a perk in the perk tree where when you're jumping in the air, it slows down time briefly. So it makes sense for it to be used in the VR version of this as well. I'm really excited. I want to see if there's more melee combat with like if there's like a staff or a spear or anything like that the character gets to use on top of the bow. We saw there was climbing axes, like Tomb Raider style for climbing. There's so much that was in this trailer that I got to rewatch it a couple more times to really dial in on everything that we're gonna get.
What kind of caught me off guard is that you saw like the sort of jungle areas, swamp areas, but you saw some of like the snowy ice mountains too.
Yeah.
So it makes me think that like a lot of the diverse locations that you see in those games are gonna make it here. All in all, I do feel like this is going to be like a more guided experience than your traditional open world game. But that doesn't mean it's going to be limited. And I actually really liked the way they're shoehorning that into here to sort of be like, hey, you're on a boat right now, and this is walking by you. Oh, you can attack this over here. Oh, you can climb this over here. Like, it seems like it's going to be a really awesome game to just experience straight through, even if it is a little more, straight line than the typical Horizon game.
Well, it reminds me, Max, to your point of like probably this being a somewhat larger experience. This to me feels very like blood and truthy, but we're getting it, early on in the life of VR.
And that game was fun as hell. Like, that was such, and they clearly had to build that from the ground up, but like they've got this world out there, and I think like putting a more, not on rails necessarily, but a more linear experience within that world is a really smart way to kind of repurpose what they've already made. It's also, anybody who looks at this and goes, this doesn't look that impressive, you probably haven't done a lot of VR, because it always is like so much more, like doing the most ordinary stuff in VR is, it'll make you want to throw up in a good way.
Opening a door.
Like that zipline stuff and the climbing, like that's going to be nerve-wracking.
I remember playing Batman VR and just holding like a clipboard and turning it for 10 minutes. Like just little mundane things like that. And it's also like PSVR 2 is going to be so powerful, and Horizon's one of the best looking games ever made. So putting those things together it's such a smart way to launch this hardware. Yeah,
it looks really exciting. There's a lot of great combat options there and things that we'll be able to do. But I hope, it feels like Horizon, we're not playing as Aloy, but we're going to be able to get to see some more things about it. But anyway, Metro by T-Mobile wants to invite you to play more than before on the go with unlimited 5G. They're helping us announce our predictions throughout the summer so you can stay connected to all the latest Summer of Gaming news. So switch to Metro and save. Just $40, period. Remember to stay tuned to IGN social channels to make your voice heard and help us predict the next big announcement.